This is Raymond Charles Barker speaking to you from Alice Tully Hall in Lincoln Center, New York City on this good Easter morning. Let's go back. Primitive man, long before organized religion. Watched the happening of spring. He watched that freshness, that newness, and he rejoiced because he knew he would have his crops again. He knew he would have his fruits, vegetables, and the whole bit again. So this goes back as far as time itself. This idea of the resurrection of life, the resurrection of the whole experience of being alive. And so in you and in me, this is not just an historical occasion. It is a thing within ourselves. We are resurrected in consciousness, in mind, in spirit, and in life. All right, let's be still a moment, take this into the subconscious mind. Where we know there is one God, one mind, one spirit, one intelligence, one law of its action, one good. And we are now open and receptive to the resurrection of our consciousness out of all doldrums, out of all negatives, into the fresh, clean ideas of the spirit of life. New, fresh, vital, creative, dynamic ideas and their wonder. All right, so it is. I'm talking this morning on the mind triumphant. That which Emerson called the oversoul, when he said that we all rest in the lap of a mighty intelligence. And we do. And on a day like this, we remind ourselves of it. That we are in something that is so great that we can never know the wonder of it all, but we can know it in part. 20 million years from now, we still will not know all of it. But we will know more of it. Because we're in an incessant, evolving, expanding and unfolding wisdom, intelligence and life. And this is individual in you, in myself. We are the individualizations of the total mind of the universe. And that is a wonderful concept to have. And so on this day, let's take that concept. I am that which is the totality of all fresh life, all newness, all of that which is resurrecting nature today, bringing up the new, the fresh, the vital, the different. Now let's go back to the story that we have in the four Gospels. We do not worry about it being historically accurate or not. It is magnificent as symbol, as allegory, as picture. It says that they took Jesus down from the cross and put him in a borrowed tomb. I want to emphasize that word, borrowed tomb. And then on Sunday morning, when they went to find him, this great heavy stone which had been put over the entrance was rolled away, and he was not there. Now, they were absolutely mystified naturally. Now, this is wonderful allegory. How many times have you been in a borrowed tomb? Meaning, your problems. See, all problems are temporary. But when you're in them, you're in a borrowed tomb. You are not on your own home ground. Because your own home ground is to be a creative, vital expression of mind and life and love and good. So when you're off in a problem, you have put yourself into a borrowed sepulcher. And you have rolled a great rock in front of you so that you cannot get out. And I know people that have been in that sort of negative state of consciousness for years and years and years. I remembered a neighbor many years ago in Rochester, New York, where I was raised, and we always dreaded to meet her. on the street or in a store, because she would immediately start weeping over her beloved daughter who had died 10 or 12 years before. And here she was, still in the tomb, still in it. And I mean, she really wept. She wept with intensity, with emotion. This was not an act she put on. She never got out of that tomb. And I'm sure she stayed in it until her last breath. Because a borrowed tomb means a false sense of life. It is not natural. See, that's why you enjoy looking at people when they smile and laugh, and you are embarrassed to look at them when they cry. Because the sorrow is not the way it ought to be. The laughter, yes. The smile, the joy, yes. Perfectly natural. And you watch somebody, and if they really are laughing hard, after a while you laugh with them, not perhaps even knowing what they're laughing about. Becomes contagious. Now, the borrowed tomb. Every negative state of consciousness is a borrowed tomb. It is not natural. It is abnormal. Now, they went there on the first day of the week, as it says, and they found that the stone had been rolled away, and Jesus was not there. Now, this is interesting to me because this was apparently a very large stone, and it had been rolled away by pressure from the inside of the tomb. No one had rolled it away, it says. So some pressure on the inside of the tomb rolled it away. Now remember, when you're in your next tomb of negation, you too can, with spiritual thinking, spiritual motivation, and with consistent knowing of the good, you can roll away the stone and walk free. You can come out into the light. You can have your resurrection from that particular problem. Because every time we have a problem, we have to have a resurrection. We have to have that in us, which pushes the stone away and lets us be free. One of our great themes here in this teaching is that there are no insolvable problems and there are no unanswerable questions. There is always the solution, there is always the answer when the individual goes within himself. Goes within himself. This coming July, at the Great New Thought Convention, on Monday night, we're having a wonderful guest speaker, Dr. Kring of the All Souls Unitarian Church, and another wonderful speaker, Raymond Charles Barker. At any rate, Dr. Kring, who is an authority on Emerson, is speaking the first hour on Emerson and the God within, which was his teaching. I am speaking the second hour on New Thought and the God within. Because you see, we're dealing with that which is within. And therefore resurrection is inside, not outside. Therefore it is not done unto us by a whim of an infinite wisdom, power, presence, or mind. It is done unto us when we initiate it. Self-resurrection has to be self-initiated. It has to be experienced, it has to be known, and it has to be something the individual does within himself, upon himself, about himself. I often define what we call spiritual mind treatment as an action of consciousness within myself, about myself, acting upon myself for a specific result. That's what I believe scientific prayer is. It is that which I do to myself. Now, in the symbol I gave, it would seem as though Jesus had used a spiritual power to remove the stone. And you have that same thing, the God within, the life within, the mind within, the whole thing. And you see, most people, when you say that to them, and I don't mean you because you people know our work, most people will say, oh, but how on earth could that be? Poor little me. Just look at me, there's nothing spiritual about me. Well, there is, they don't know it. Probably couldn't care less. But there is a living soul on this plane of life that isn't spiritual. They just disregard it. Because they link it up with piety, and they don't want it. But they have it. There is a divine self in every living soul, and that means you, right now. Wherever you're sitting, wherever you're listening, whether you're here in Ellis-Jones Hall or listening by radio, there is a divine spiritual self at the center of you that can resurrect you out of all limitations. When you initiate the action, that's the great big if. When you initiate the action, it takes place. Now, this is probably why religion has always had systems of prayer. Whatever form it was to change the thought and initiate a new train of causation in mind. Whether it's a traditional thing like the 23rd Psalm of the Lord's Prayer or anything else. It is a way of clearing thought and initiating a new train of ideas, and that's what Easter is. Initiating a new train of ideas, not the old. See, the winter's the old. We're past that. You put away your winter clothes. Hopefully before yesterday when we had our great heat, and today again. I looked at them in my closet this morning and I said, bye-bye. I'll see you next October. So when we have come out of the winter, out of that which, I'm using elaborate terms, which is harsh and forbidding, and we've come into the freshness, the vitality, the goodness and the beauty of the now. That in itself is resurrection. And so we see it in the flowers. We certainly heard it in the music. This thing which, when known, acts within us. It responds. You and I respond to this, just as you responded to the music, and will again. Something in you picked up the beauty, the harmony, the freshness, the vitality, and you were renewed just by listening. So now we are renewed, as Paul said, by the transforming of our minds. A magnificent statement. And can it be done? Of course it can be done. Can you do it? Of course you can do it. Can I do it? Of course I can do it. And how do I do it? I initiate some new ideas in mind. I don't just think the old routine. You know, every morning, orange juice, toast, and coffee. Yeah, every morning. Orange juice, toast, and coffee. That's a routine. By the way, it's a healthy routine, nothing wrong with it. But once in a while, add a little something for a change. No, you and I can go through an entire week and not have a really new thought. We can. We're doing the routine. So I go to my office. I read the mail. I talk with people. I give lectures. Well, I've been doing this for more years than I'm willing to admit now. You know, I've been 30 years in New York alone. And I had many years before that. And I am not Methuselah. And I've got a great many years to go. So heaven help you all. Now, Here it is on the inside, waiting our recognition. Here it is on the inside, and it's waiting. I think it was Browning who said that God rests in smiling repose. Might have been Emerson, I don't know. That God rests in smiling repose. Smiling because he can't be unhappy, waiting until the little man or the little woman or whoever it is wakes up. Wakes up to what is really so. To health, to life, to prosperity, to joy, to love, the whole bit. Yesterday was my day to write some of the treatments for our magazine. I wrote one entitled, I Am Love. Took me about 30 minutes. By the time that 30 minutes was over, I just loved everybody. Yeah. It caused me to awaken to love in myself. Then I can share it with whosoever I will. But it made me aware for 30 minutes thinking of new ways of talking about and writing about love. Be the August issue, so get ready. I will have forgotten all about it at that time and reread it again, say, oh my heavens, did I write that? That's what authors always do, you know. So, I awakened. I was literally resurrected in love. And it was a wholesome feeling, a well-being. It was nice. And I said, well, all the people I don't love, they're nice too. But I didn't concentrate on them. I didn't make a little list. I just said, I am love, with the capability of withholding it. Yes, we all have that ability. The capability of withholding it as and when I want to. And we all do this when we get our little hurt feelings and our other, wrong ideas, I'll call them. Yes, I have the ability to give, but I have the ability to withhold. And so here are all these beautiful flowers, but you don't have to look at them. You can sit there with your eyes shut. Luckily, you can't shut your ears. That's my salvation. You don't have to look at me, but you have to listen to me. No, this freedom to either be a resurrected mind or the freedom to be the same old person you were a year ago. And of course, as you know, I'm after you all the time to change, expand, unfold. Because it's too easy the other way. And watch the people you know and the people among whom you flow in the streets. And see if they have a life look to them. See if they have a life walk as they walk. See if they have any essence of joy. You can tell. It's plain as can be. And so you walk tall. Look as though you were alive and not just existing to eventually get into a casket. Which I think is what many people subconsciously are doing. They don't know it. Life, expression, the giving, the knowing, the sensing, the whole thing right here, in all of its magnificence. All right? We roll away the stone from our own tombs of ignorance. Remember, Emerson said the only sin there was ignorance. That's what he said. And we get into these tombs of our trouble. Poor little me, we shut the door, and then say, nobody understands me. And we are in there in our self-pity until suddenly we say, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I don't even understand myself, so I better do that before I expect somebody else to understand me. That's what I better do. And get a new concept of what you really are. For I am that which is new. I am that which is fresh. I am that which is the revelation of the good, of that which can be. Years ago, we had a speaker, guest speaker, and he talked about himself, as all speakers do, and he made almost an official announcement. He said, I am he who was to have come. Well, I was off stage at the time, and I heard it, and I thought, oh, now, come on. Come on. Now, I couldn't get that phrase out of my mind. It bothered me. And when I came to peace with it and understood it, I realized he was absolutely right. That each one of us is he who was to have come. Meaning we are not an accident. We are that which is, that which can be. I am he who was to have come. I like that. And so out of his arrogance, I learned something. And I guess he really believed it too. At any rate, it made me realize it's so easy to say I am unimportant to the world. And that is not true of a living soul if they will be their creative self. Every person is important to the cosmic order when they are creative and vital, when they are loving and kind, when they are producing some results in their individual lives. Otherwise, forget it. But you can be that creative, that vital, through your own resurrection of your own mind. So whether the historical fact of the resurrection is true or not, we do not haggle on that point. I only know one thing, that I can be in depression for 2 hours. I can do some spiritual thinking, and in 5 minutes I'm out of it. That's my resurrection. That's my rolling the stone away from my own mind. Or at the end of 2 hours, I can say, well, I kind of enjoy this. I think I'll give it another half hour. And I go right on my worries, sir. Now, every once in a while, I wake up and say, wait a minute now, wait a minute, this is not what you tell other people. Go to work. And I mean work. I don't mean just sweet platitudes. We've had enough sweet platitudes to last us the rest of eternity. I mean, that feeling. All right. There's one God, one mind, one life, one self, and it's in me, and it's through me, and it's in action by means of me. And this that I'm worrying about is absolute lie and untruth, and I want no more of it. Go. Suddenly, I'm perfectly free of it. See, you can always wait a few more days to worry. The opportunity is always there. You don't need to worry Sunday afternoon. Wait till Wednesday and see if you want it then. It'll be there. Negatives are always everywhere. So we can start getting into the routine of them. But we know here what the damage is. We know we can't really spiritually afford it. We know the destruction which follows. All right, I am the resurrection and the life, the divine self says. I am the resurrection and the life. But I have to do it. I have to do it. I have to initiate this new chain of causation. I have to do something fresh, different, vital, creative. And I have to get my consciousness, which is what I really am, fresh, vital, creative, with another new idea in it. So people say to me often, Dr. Barker, I've now read your book, we'll say, Treat Yourself to Life, I think 15 times. And I look at them and they look just the same as before they bought the book. Oh, it's the most wonderful book you ever heard of me. I don't know. Good book. But I look at them, I think, 15 times. I don't think I've read it that often. And I'm always surprised when I do read it, or any of the other of my writing. Because they seem so proud of an accomplishment, but it doesn't show in their face, it doesn't show in their opinions in life, it doesn't show in their prosperity, it doesn't show. Now, it's a good accomplishment. It's like the people that used to read the Bible from cover to cover. When I was young and enthusiastic in the early 20s, my early 20s, I decided I was going to read it from cover to cover. Freudian slip. I guess it was in the late 20s. I figured out I was born in 1911. At any rate, I was going to read that book from cover to cover. I think I got almost to Leviticus. Then I stopped. And if you want to know why I stopped, go home this afternoon and read the book of Leviticus. Yep. And if you get through it, I'll go back to Sunday school days and put a little gold star on your paper. You know. No, this is a day of joy, a day of delight, a day of wonder, a day that shouts at me, come out of the tombs of your own stupidity. Come out. Be fresh, be glad, new, vital, dynamic. Yes, it's all there, and you are the embodiment of it. I often have quoted to you a statement that was originally in a book of Ernest Holmes, long out of print, and it was one of the first things I ever read of his, and in those days I was rather pious. Oh, yes. So, and at any rate, and this was the sentence, an opening sentence of his book, God loves a prosperous man. And I thought, oh my goodness, Dr. Holmes. What? A couple of years later, I realized it was absolutely so. And I've enjoyed it ever since. And I want more. All the good there is ours to grasp, to stimulate within our own thought, and to experience the fullness and the richness of it. All of God in every living soul. And it's there. And that's where this great music came from. Came out of the center of someone's soul. And where our great singer had it from the center of her soul. And it's all beautiful. All right. I'm going to give you the farewell word of mine. All right, well, what can I say to you? This. It's a great, big, wonderful world. In a great, big, wonderful cosmic order. And it's new, fresh, as the flowers, as the whole bit. It's lovely. And it's all the action of God, the action of mind, the action of spirit. And it's good. Thank you for coming.